All right, good evening, everybody. It is Tuesday, November 29th, 2022. It is 8:49 p.m. Eastern Time here, live from Midtown Manhattan. Now, tonight we're actually going to be doing something a little bit different. We are going to walk all the way down to Wall Street. We haven't really been to Lower Manhattan in quite some time, so I think it would be appropriate to head down there. But first, huge congratulations are in order to the United States men's soccer team for beating Iran 1-0. Fantastic game. Now, I wasn't able to watch all of it because I did have to work, but I definitely caught the majority of the highlights. So fantastic. We're moving on. God bless America, and God bless all of you. S&P 500 and the NASDAQ were markedly lower today. Now, all but fractionally, the S&P 500 was down about 6 points. However, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, or the Dow 30, was able to squeak out pretty slim gains here, about 3 points. Now, I think what's more important to look for here is at the Dixie real quick. So if we take a look at the DXY or the dollar index, if you look at it on tradingview.com or something like that, you'll see that we're finding support right here on the 200-day moving average. Now, the 200-day comes in right at 105, and we have now rallied all the way back to 106. So it's very possible that if this dollar wrecking ball gets moving here, we could retrace all the way back to 110, and I think that would put substantial pressure on major equity indices. Taking a quick look at crude oil, ticker symbol CL. Let's look at the light crude futures. Rallied a little bit today, trading at $78.91. So what we're going to be talking about tonight on the live stream, we did hear from CrowdStrike as they reported quarterly earnings, and I think the main takeaway from this earnings report is that the market does not want growth stocks, okay? We are in an environment of quantitative tightening as it relates to quantitative easing. So CrowdStrike down 20% after hours, even though they did beat on the EPS, so the bottom line came in around 40 cents. Wall Street analysts were expecting 31 cents of EPS. They also beat on the top line, coming in at $581 million worth of revenue, when Wall Street analysts were expecting $574 million. Now, I think this really just goes to show everything we've been talking about here on the channel, that we're seeing this huge rotation out of growth stocks into value, and that is why the Dow 30 tends to be leading this market. A lot of the energy sector and the healthcare sector are leading. A lot of these very high beta frothy growth stocks are just not in favor, and I think we need to stay away until further notice. Lastly, we did hear from some housing data today. So the S&P Case-Shiller National Home Price Index continued to decline. We had about a 10.6% year-over-year increase. That is down from about 12.9% year-over-year increase. Last month, we're going to talk about the individual housing markets, okay? Starting with Miami, Tampa, Florida, and Charlotte. Those are the specific housing markets that have been seeing the most turbocharged growth. Is it over? Is it going to continue? We'll find out tonight on Walks on Wall Street. Everybody, got to put my laptop away. Big result today from the United States men's national team. Great game. But congratulations are in order as well to Iran. I think they played a great game, and it is not easy just to make it to a World Cup. So big congratulations to them. Very entertaining game. Let's quickly get downstairs before we say hello to everybody in the chat, just because the elevator tends to interrupt internet service. Really quick, we're also going to be talking about China. Talk about a rip-roaring rally in the Chinese equity markets yesterday, all while we were talking about those widespread protests and how this could be a pretty contrarian trade here if we go long China. But we'll talk about that more tonight. We are here at the WeWork building, 135 Madison Avenue. And we will head street level and head downtown to Wall Street. It's gonna be cold, I feel. Let me zip up my jacket. Have a good night, man. Ooh, yes, it is cold. Oh my gosh. All right, so we are live here, East 31st Street in Madison. Let me pull off to the side and say what's up to all the team here. I see Dan Zhang. Hey, Dan, good to see you. British Gray says good Tuesday evening. Tom, always a pleasure, British Gray. William Travis says USA win. Indeed, they did. Andre Almar says hello, good to see you. Tom, Tiffany Allen, Sam Morgano, good to see you. Andre Almar, Carol Reevy, Bucks, welcome. Charlie Richardson, Lupe. Brick Stonewall is here. Good to see you. Pup, welcome. Happy Tuesday. Carson's has got to get some shots of the Empire State Building tonight. I think it's lit red, white, and blue. I think it is, and we're actually going to get a pretty nice shot of it as we head southbound on Madison Avenue. We're going to make a right on 23rd Street. That's going to take us all the way across to Madison Square Park. And they probably have it lit up all red, white, and blue for the big win today. We did get the W. Great game. Andrew says, what is your degree in? I'm one of those people who have a really, really unrelated degree. I have a degree in criminal justice with a minor in economics. So very, very, give me 1 second. Yeah, so very, very unrelated. Hey, Ren1018 says, Tom, what is your prediction USA-Netherlands game on Saturday? I think we're going to win. And that's maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I think we're going to win. And if I were to predict the score, I think it's actually going to be a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be 3-2 US. ATC says, good evening, everybody. Congratulations, USA, on the win. Agreed. Thomas Conroy says, thanks, Tom, for the views. Good to see you, Thomas. Thanks for being here. Fairway says, World Cup game was very exciting. It was. It really was. Now, it's interesting because the whole entire first half, it seemed as if Iran was just stacking all of their players in their penalty box. They were more than happy to sit back and taking a complete beating, a barrage by Team USA. But they really turned the tables in the second half. I thought Iran played well. They had some good opportunities, some good chances. They almost scored in stoppage time. Did anybody see that? Iran actually had a really good chance and almost scored in stoppage time. It was actually pretty good. Thank God they didn't. Mike is here. Welcome. Good to see you. Dr. Longus. Hopefully you were watching the game. Lilla. This is good evening, Tom, and everybody. My good moderators here. Sunshine after rain. Always a pleasure having you in the chat. Sparks Carnival, William Brooklyn. Horatio Snipes is Tom, very optimistic. Netherlands is going to serve them. You may be right, but I don't know. This World Cup has been, let's just say there's been a lot of upsets so far. A lot of upsets. My friend Vladimir is here. Says, thank you for your streams. What's your opinion on investing in credit funds versus JV equity in multifamily space? So here's what I would say about that. I'm not sure what what your, I don't know how I could say this. I don't know what your sort of setup is in relation to, how much money you're working with or something like that. But if you're young, I think it would be better to maybe go about it on your own if you want to break into, the real estate space as opposed to buying REITs. And REITs are fine, right? But I don't know. I don't know what your age is or anything like that, but I think if you're young, I would try to, and if you're interested in real estate, I'm not sure what your resources are. I would try to just acquire properties yourself, avoiding all the expense ratios. And I think it'll give you an education in how to purchase property, what are the appropriate properties to buy, and you'll learn a lot. So I don't know, that would be my answer without knowing a lot more. But I don't know, what does anybody else in the chat think about that? Now, the majority of the time I cover a lot of enterprise software companies. The ABX girl says, hey Tom, I saw the news that the crazy Thanksgiving driver was arrested on DWI charges. Whoa. Wow. Well, that's good news, right? That's some good news. I bet he'll be released onto the streets by tomorrow. Unfortunately. Sally is here, Austin City Limits. Sean says, what kind of investment property do you have in Florida? I have a very, very small single family home, but that is zoned for two family. By the way, the Florida room is set up. So usually when I'm not there, what I'll do is I will put it on Airbnb for only month-long rentals. So we'll talk about that for a bit because we got some housing data out. Now, in my opinion, and again, this is just my personal opinion, if you're interested in trying to help pay down your debt by renting out your home on Airbnb or any other short-term rental platform, number one, make sure you check your local laws about it. Make sure it's legal. But number two, from my experience, the longer the duration of the rental, the higher quality tenant it seems to attract for whatever reason. I've put just as much effort into renting the place out on a weekend than for an entire month. And the month-long rentals, especially in Southern Florida, I'm speaking from just this very niche experience, it tends to attract a lot of remote workers that are looking to go on a family vacation for around 30 days, maybe 60 days. They have the ability to work from home, and they also have kids, right? So they don't want to cram 3 kids in the hotel, so they'll rent a house, right? Very high quality tenant, obviously good jobs. When people tend to rent for 1 or 2 nights, I found those individuals, quite obviously, right, to be quite transient and not really taking good care of the property, if that makes sense. Gary Carpenter, good to see you. Welcome. Mary Lamb says, doubt the car was drivable after all that damage. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It seems like there was a lot of damage there. But look, it's a good news that he's off the street, right? What a mistake. What a big mistake. Drinking and driving. Horrible. Horrible, horrible. War Walkers here. This is Hey Tom and Mod Squad. Welcome. So I wanted to quickly I know Vladimir says after what happened in the Hudson Yard stream, I'm not surprised about DUI drivers anymore. It's really crazy, man. I don't know why people, like, I don't know, maybe their mental state is in the appropriate place. Who knows? But assuming you have a job, you have, you know, family, especially in a state like New York, you know, if you get a DUI, DWI, I mean, you're toast, man. Pretty much throw your life away. But again, we don't really know anything about the guy, and you know, hopefully he find the help he needs. I guess that's really all I could say. You never really know what somebody's going through, right? I think that's one thing I learned early. You really never know. You really never know the full story. Oh my God, look at this miniature mouse. That is the smallest rat/mouse I've ever seen in my life. Look at that little guy. Holy crap. Anyway. Rich Child once, hello guys, I'm tired watching after work. I had a long day at work too. Very, very busy. Before I forget, I want to bring everybody's attention back to the Chinese market. And I think it's appropriate because number one, we really started talking about the Chinese equity market, right? As we've been focusing on the Hang Seng Index. You could look that up by the ticker symbol HSI. Now, talk about an explosive, rip your face off rally it had yesterday, closing at the dead high of the day. I think it was up 5%. I think it was up 5% on the day. Now, we're not going to speculate as to if the Chinese equity market has bottomed, but what we were talking about is generalizations, market sentiment, and contrarian thinking. Okay? And we reverted back to the very, very famous saying on Wall Street that bear markets start on pessimism, they mature on skepticism, and then they die of euphoria. I may have missed one particular word in there, but you understand what I mean. When markets bottom, they don't bottom when the news is rosy and fantastic. It bottoms when it's a horror show, when everything is going into Armageddon, right? When there's mass chaos. That's usually when markets bottom. And I think that's a pretty good description of what has been going on in China over the last year, right? 2 years. You talk about, oh man, look guys, check this out. The Empire State Building's looking good. Hold that thought. What do you guys think of the Empire tonight? Obviously lit up in red, white, and blue due to the big win. Huge win today. Team USA. Love it. I give it a 10 out of 10. Man, that's my favorite. I think that's my favorite color scheme on the Empire State Building. That's the color scheme that they have during the 4th of July. Looks great. You guys will see a better view over here, where once we get through the trees a little bit. But we were talking about, and it's been all over the news, right? COVID in the Foxconn factories. And now the market could go lower, right? But I found it very interesting, and I would really, really highly recommend everybody on the stream, any type of charting software you use, pull up a chart of the Hang Seng Index, right, HSI, and zoom out on a monthly time frame and notice how and when the Chinese equity market tends the bottom and do some research and some homework and look back throughout history and try to nail down historical events and understand the different macroeconomic environments and conditions that were happening while those markets were bottoming. Now, it's not the exact same, but it definitely does seem to rhyme. Hey, Cindy Foley is here. Good to see you, Cindy. Thanks for being here. Dr. Longus is a very nice shot. Yeah, Empire State Building's looking great. I think it looks even better with all the clouds in the background. Susanna's is Times Square tonight. It was too long of a day at work for me to do Times Square. I definitely don't have the mental fortitude for that. Maybe sometime this week, I promise. Mike C says, I do not care if Chinese stocks rally from here. I want no part of it. That's fair. That's a fair statement. Can't argue with that. All right, but everybody, we are actually going to be turning down Broadway, walking all the way down. We're going to pass Washington Square Park. Well, first we're going to pass Union Square, right? Then we will pass Washington Square Park. We'll walk through SoHo. Maybe we'll take a little bit of a trip through Chinatown, Little Italy, and then we will conclude the live stream downtown on Wall Street. We haven't been there in quite some time. Yes, Sparks Carnival says brick and mortar retail stores were a big winner over the shopping holiday weekend. Consumers wanting to go out after COVID. I think that's a fair assessment. Now, also, we talked about Black Friday sales. I think it was all-time record high for online Black Friday sales at Shopify. I think it was up about 10% year over year. Brendan says Palo Alto and CrowdStrike getting hammered today. Are you buying? I am not buying. Now, yeah, let's talk about that. So CrowdStrike actually reported earnings today. And as we know, CrowdStrike is one of these, what I would like to call very high beta growth stocks, right? So during the run-up of 2020 and 2021, a lot of these tech companies that have very, very little earnings now, but high revenue growth, have performed very well. And we've sort of reviewed as to why, right? FDNY, 2 thumbs up. And that is because there was ample liquidity in the marketplace and interest rates are low or were low. And as we've been reviewing on the live stream, we've been talking about something that's called a discounted cash flow model. And finance or investing is really all about valuating or understanding what the value, as we pass Charles Schwab here, of what a company's future cash flows are going to be. And when interest rates are very low, the value of those future cash flows are worth more today. But as rates start to go up, the future value or the present value of those future cash flows decline, and the market has to adjust accordingly for that. So even though CrowdStrike did beat analysts' expectations on both the top and the bottom line, the market is clearly telling us that growth stocks are out of favor still. Now, additionally to this, we've been watching which indices have been leading. And as of late, the Dow, or the Dow 30, has really been leading the S&P 500, and the S&P 500 has been leading the NASDAQ. And the reason for that is because of exactly what we've been talking about. If you look at the main companies, let me cross the street here. Just give me a minute. If you look at the main companies in the Dow, or I would say the top 10 stocks that make up the Dow Jones Industrial Average, they tend to be very, very different than the top 10 stocks, let's say, in the NASDAQ composite, right? NASDAQ is a very tech-heavy, tech-weighted indice. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, if you go through, and if you go to stockcharts.com, you could see the makeup of the top 10 stocks in the Dow. And you'll notice that almost 10 out of 10 of those stocks have dividend yields higher than 2%. So these are companies that are generating cash now and paying out a yield to investors. And that is what people seem to want now, right? So we've had this huge rotation out of growth into value. And yesterday, we heard from Federal Reserve President John Williams, which is the New York Federal Reserve President. And he actually came out and said that he is expecting interest rates to stay higher for a longer duration of time. So I think we may continue to see these very high beta growth stocks continue to sell off. Now, in my view, right, as we sort of like to analyze companies based on two things: potential investment standpoint and very lucrative career opportunities. I think the three leaders in cybersecurity are Palo Alto Networks, Zscaler, ticker symbol ZS, and lastly, CrowdStrike. Now, just because a company may make for a good employment opportunity, I think it's very important we stay cognizant of the environment we are operating in, because sometimes growth stocks fall out of favor, and sometimes value stocks fall into favor. And if we understand the environment we're operating in, we could sort of shift our portfolios to align with the current monetary environment and the current global macro environment. And it seems as if growth stocks are still way out of favor, and they may even be pounded even more as we go into December because of something called tax loss selling. Here we are at East 17th Street, Union Square. I'll give you guys a quick panoramic view of Union Square here. TC says Walks from Wall Street, Zscaler reports earnings on Thursday. Now, was Zscaler also down after the bell? Because usually, I think what Brian said, right, Palo Alto is down. Usually if a major cybersecurity company reports poor earnings, it'll bring down all the other stocks in the sector. So maybe it's down. Hey, Karan Stewart says, are you ready for the lighting tomorrow at Rockefeller Center? Yeah, oh yeah, you're right. So they are doing the tree lighting tomorrow at 30 Rock. There's probably gonna be a lot of people there. Wow, I just realized that. Kathy Lyons is here, good to see you, Kathy. Thanks for being here. Sparks Carnival says Morgan Stanley's Mike Wilson warns the S&P 500 could drop 24% from today's close in early 2023. The bear market is not over. We've got significantly lower lows if our earnings forecasts are correct. Yeah, so Sparks Carnival, that's a good point. And this is exactly... Now, will that play out? Who knows? But as you guys know from watching this stream, this is one of the things we've been talking about, is looking at forward earnings estimates, right? And I think as of now, many analysts across Wall Street at many of the investment banks are giving a little bit too generous or an optimistic picture of next year's earnings. So for some perspective, if we talk valuation, I think as of today, and you guys could Google this yourselves, but I think with the recent rally in the S&P, I think it's trading on a forward PE ratio of about 19 times 2023 earnings. That, in this environment, that's pretty expensive. So assuming what Morgan Stanley is saying is correct, right? If we assume that, and earnings take a 20% haircut across the board, well, that means you're actually paying more than 19 times 2023 earnings. So I don't know. We'll see. I think it's a big possibility. I think it's all going to depend on the Federal Reserve. Steve CR, good to see you. Welcome, Steve. Melee says, I hope the railroads don't strike. You know, I haven't been following that at all. Does anybody who is very, very well read, oh, look at all this stuff here, on the railroad stuff, want to give us some insight? Because I've just been totally checked out on that. Now, is this like an inevitable thing that they're going to strike? What are the potential ramifications? And do we think that we could avoid this? Because honestly, I just don't know. I have no idea. Brendan O'Brien says, hi, IR environment, 19 PE. Forward PE is way too high historically. Dan Zhang says, Tom, have you checked out Ulta Beauty stock price? That stock is still at all-time highs even after the rate hikes. Yeah, so Ulta is one of those companies. Now, did you guys know this interesting fact? For whatever reason, but it's true. People tend to spend more money on makeup during a recession. Now, why that is, I have absolutely no idea, but it's actually true. People tend to spend more money on makeup during economic downturns. That I have no idea why. Will M says, Tom, the railroad workers are split between about 10 different unions. So far, I believe 3 of them had voted to strike, and if any of them do, they will all refuse to cross the picket lines. Yeah, thank you for that insight. That is true. So if one union strikes, all the others have to, right, in solidarity? Isn't that what it's called, solidarity? Now, I'm not sure if you guys know, I actually used to be in a union early on when I was a teenager just turning 20. I was in CWA right here in New York City, the Communication Workers of America. I think we were local 1101, I think, or 1107, or no, local 1101, I think. Maybe someone could look that up. Anyway, hopefully they don't strike. Hopefully they'll figure it out. But you know what's interesting that just popped into my head? Now, obviously, when people strike, well, I shouldn't say all the time, but I think we could, in a generalization, we could say most of the time, they're demanding higher wages, right? Is that fair to say? When unions strike, typically it has to, I mean, that's not the only reason, I get it. But most of the time, it's involving they're demanding higher wages. I think that's appropriate. We could go with that as a generalization. I know that's not the case all the time. But what did Fed President John Williams say yesterday at the Economic Club of New York? What was his one concern? Does anybody remember from last night's live stream? And this just popped into my head now that we've, been talking about this potential strike. The number one area or cause for concern that he and fellow Fed presidents are seeing as it relates to inflation is, you guessed it, the entrenched wage price spiral. As of now, doing this video, the unemployment rate in the US is 3.7%, I think, 3.7. The labor market generally is still running quite strong, and wages are increasing. Now, they're not increasing at the same pace as inflation, unfortunately, but wages are going up. And as you have a smaller talent pool of workers to pull from, well, if I'm interviewing at 5 places, I get 3 offers, well, I could pin them against each other and get higher wages, right? So that's a good example. Maybe rates are going to stay higher than a lot longer than anybody expects. Zozo Bob says, Tom, I think a strike will be averted. Veronica G says they only want to give them 1 sick day per year. Holy hell. Is that true? Lou 72 says Buffett raking it in on the railroads. That's true. Rich Child 9 says they were saying railroad workers couldn't take off sick. That's not fair. Lose your job or go to work sick. I agree with that, especially nowadays. I mean, didn't we learn anything from the pandemic? Tariq says, I could see why Ulta is high. David Individual is here. Says deliveries have caught up to normal levels in most industries. Loss to lease gap has dropped back to normal levels. Yes, supply chains are healing. Supply chains are healing. John Williams said that as well. Now, the main things that they're looking at, right, that is generally bringing down inflation is, number one, commodities prices have normalized. Does anybody remember, all those memes going around about the price of lumber? Lumber futures are all the way back down, did a round trip. Also, shipping containers, shipping costs have pretty much round tripped, done a complete 180 all the way back to where they were. Commodities in general have come down. We've been talking about crude. Now, take a look at ticker symbol CL, the light crude futures. I think it was March. Yeah, I think March. We hit a 52-week high of $130. Now we're trading, I think, below 80, 76 bucks. So you're seeing certain things come down. I think supply chains are healing, to David's point. But we're really still seeing inflation being ingrained in the economy by wage pressures, also in shelter costs. Shelter costs is a big, big issue. Wow, Jay says you're 2 blocks from my house. You live in a really nice neighborhood. This is really nice. Near NYU. This is high rent district here. This is big stuff. Hey, John is here. Says when costs go up, demand appears to decrease. And when demand decreases, price reduces. Good to see you, John. Thanks for joining again. Sparks Carnival says we received consumer confidence numbers today. Not great. Still worried about inflation. Yeah, they also said that in the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index. Consumer sentiment really doesn't seem to be improving. Hey, Charles D. Good to see you, Charles. Happy Tuesday. Will M. says, Tom, railroads have reduced their payrolls and are raking in record profits in the past 5 years. I think Biden should be pushing the companies for a few more concessions, in my honest opinion, says Will M. Yeah, I mean, again, I think you guys are probably more on top of this than I am. I just really haven't been watching it closely as I should have. But yeah, I mean, so when is the deadline? And excuse me for my ignorance on this, and I think this is good that we have a live chat. So is there a deadline? Is there a cutoff when they do go on strike? Any specific day? I would be curious about that. Okay, December 9th is the deadline. All right, so we got a week. So December 1st is Thursday. Crazy, can't believe that. We are headed into the last month of the year, almost 2023. Which is really bizarre to think about. Feels like only yesterday we were walking around the city and it was 90 degrees out. Now it's getting pretty cold. Iceman says, I just saw my first New York City rat. We saw the smallest mouse/rat we've ever seen on the stream, probably about 20 minutes ago. Wow, is that true? Karan Stewart, the New Year's Eve is on a weekend. If that's true, this city is going to be freaking rocking. Hey, Rex A says, hey, Tom, rent is really killing the American people. Will it come down anytime soon? It really is killing people. Rent is extremely, extremely high. And again, as we talked about, my biggest concern is, yes, the last CPI report we got, okay, I will be fair, it came in better than expected. But we're still seeing inflation go up, right? It's decelerating. But as I've argued, and again, I could be wrong. This is just my opinion. I'm not saying it's the right one. But as I've argued, in my view, if you really look at the CPI report and break it down line by line, really quick, look at how beautiful these cobblestone streets are here, right on the campus of New York University. You know, if you look at the last CPI report, check out shelter costs. And shelter costs makes up about a third of the entire report. And that category actually accelerated as opposed to decelerated. And generally speaking, at least I'll speak for myself, I don't want to speak for anybody in the chat, our number one expense is either a rent or a mortgage, right? I mean, let's say if you're spending, you know, $1,000 to $2,000 on rent, I'm assuming that's going to be your biggest expense, right? I mean, unless you have a ridiculous car note or something. Maybe healthcare, something. Yeah, Ryan Beck's is 7.7% versus 7.9%. Yippee. Yeah, at least it's moving in the right direction, I guess. You know, speaking of housing, as we come across the beautiful Washington Square Park here, we heard from the S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller National Home Price Index, and it did continue to decline on a month-over-month basis. Okay, on a year-over-year basis, it is still going up. So on a year-over-year basis, home prices nationally increased 10.6% year-over-year. Okay, that's significant. But we're coming off the back of a massive rally in real estate, obviously due to the artificially suppressed rates that we've had throughout the tail end of 2020 and pretty much all of 2021, right? But now we are in the opposite scenario where interest rates are going up. We are just coming off the back of 4 consecutive 75 basis point rate hikes. And at the next FOMC meeting, really quick, hold that thought. I want to point this out. If anybody ever comes to New York, you got to try to find this guy. He plays the piano amazingly here in Washington Square Park. That's a big rat. He plays the piano right here, and every day, this guy is rucking this piano home. Every day. I think there's actually a video of him on the internet doing it, and they did like a little documentary series on it. It's pretty impressive. He's talented too. But at the December 13th to the 14th is the next Federal Open Market Committee meeting, or the FOMC meeting, in which case it looks like we're probably going to get about a 50 basis point rate hike. However, we are going to get more inflation data out, I believe, Friday, which is the PCE, which is actually the Fed's preferred inflation gauge. And if that comes in hotter than expected, I don't know. I think you're going to see a big swing in futures, and maybe we'll get a 5th consecutive 75 basis point rate hike. Now, last month, the S&P Case-Shiller Home Price Index was actually up 12.9%, right? So you're seeing deceleration on a year-over-year basis, month to month, but we're still going up. But I think what's more important to catch an emerging trend is the month-over-month numbers, and those are declining quite rapidly as of that. Hey, Francisco is here. Says, have a good night. Good to see you, Francisco. Mike sees his 3 rats in the first hour. Yeah, I think that may be a new record for rats. Steve CR says, I'm glad we're not doing shots on rat sightings. Yeah, I'm going to get you guys in trouble for sure. I briefly wanted to take you guys past the NYU Stern building, which is right here. Michael Joseph says he has a loft in the Lower East Side, and he pushes it there. I used to help him roll it when I went to NYU. Oh, dude, that's awesome. He's really talented too. And he's out there, I'm telling you guys, he's out there in the wind, the rain, everything. Really cool. Yeah, I think I watched the video on him. I think you're right. Hey, LL is new to the channel. LL, thank you for being here. Welcome. and hopefully you're enjoying. Hopefully you're having a good week so far. Now, really quick before we make our final push through SoHo and then finally down to Wall Street, maybe we'll actually go to South Street Seaport as well. We are now on the campus of the NYU Stern. And the reason why I wanted to show you guys this is because I always recommend, and I know we have a lot of new people, the OGs sort of know this, but a lot of times we get questions on the channel about, is there a specific way I should get started in maybe being a little bit curious about investing. And I would say if you really want to get serious about managing your own portfolio, I think you really need to learn the fundamentals and basics of how to evaluate businesses and the very, very basics of how to read a balance sheet, how to read a cash flow statement. And there's a very famous professor that teaches right in the building I just showed. He is actually considered to be the dean of valuation. You've probably seen him on CNBC, Bloomberg, all of the main financial channels. His name is Aswat Damodaran, or Professor Damodaran, and he is a professor that teaches two very, very famous courses right here at NYU Stern. One of which is securities analysis, and the other is corporate finance. Now, the good news is he is a very, very, I would say, transparent and open professor, and he actually posts many of his lectures online for free for all of us to watch if we don't have the money to go to NYU. So maybe one of the moderators could post the link to the courses in the chat. And I think that's a really good place to start. Also, additionally, what I would say as we make our way across Broadway, if you go on Amazon.com, go under the used books section and type in Aswat Damodaran on valuation, or valuation by Damodaran. That's actually the textbook they use for the course. And you could get it for like $3 used on Amazon. And I think it's probably the best ROI you're gonna get. But you gotta get down the fundamentals first, understanding how businesses operate, understanding how to read and decipher a balance sheet, cash flow statement. And the good news is you can find all of this information generally for free. So check that out. Hey, Kelly Harper is here. Good to see you. FredX, welcome. God bless. Hopefully you're well. Hey, Pixelogic says, hey Tom, always looking forward to joining the stream. Pixelogic, good to see you. Happy Tuesday. Hopefully you caught some of the World Cup there. Team USA with the big W. Okay, so let's make a right here and head downtown. JM says you got rats on the wet. Somebody says you have rats on the west side. Oh, bed bugs uptown. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of bed bugs. Let's stay away from that. Check out these buildings. I really like these sort of new modern style buildings. At first, I really didn't think it was going to fit into the original architectural layout of SoHo, or NoHo, I should say, but I think it does. I think it fits pretty well. Hey, Jose, this is a very good tip from Tom. I found the YouTube channel from the NYU teacher. Yeah, and the crazy thing is, here's something that I've noticed, and let me know if you guys have noticed the same thing. But first, we're gonna be stopping a lot along the way because I really wanna showcase the architecture on these buildings. I think over the past 2 weeks, we've been mainly staying around Midtown Manhattan, and you're gonna notice the architectural differences between Midtown, specifically near Billionaires Row, and NoHo and SoHo. Lots of differences, and I think you're gonna enjoy it as we go down. So I'll be sure to point out the main buildings. But if you find Professor Damodaran's channel, YouTube channel, you'll notice he posts 2-hour-long lectures, right, that he gives to his students, right, the people that are going to NYU, the business school. And there's very little viewership a lot of the time relative to how valuable the content is. And I think it's just because, and this is not an insult, right? This is a quick discussion on human psychology. Humans are drawn automatically to the path of least resistance. Always. Humans are always drawn to the path of least resistance. Really quick, this is Bond Street. You can notice all of the really, really beautiful cobblestone streets. And they would rather, many people would much rather watch like a 5-minute or a 5-second video about here's the top 5 stocks to buy right now and here's all the answers, right? As opposed to, you know, sitting and studying for 2 hours to nail down the fundamentals, to learn a systematic framework for investing so you can be self-sufficient, okay? It's just something I've noticed. And for the value that Professor Damodaran gives and just the high level education he offers, I don't think many people are taking full advantage of it. I mean, it's right out there on his channel for free. And I think over the long term, right, if you really want to be serious about managing your own money and making positive returns, you really, really have to learn a systematic framework to investing, right? Not just, you know, give me 3 hot stock tips, right? It just is not a reality. And I think that's where, you know, these different resources come into play. And the good thing is we live in 2022, almost 2023, the age of the internet, and everything is pretty much publicly available on the internet for free. The only thing that you need to do is just put in the hours, right? You just need to put in the work and actually do it and study it. Lafayette Street, Bleecker Street. Lots of nice buildings here. Muslim is here. Says, what time is it over there? I'm actually not sure. If I had to guess, 9:30. Maybe 9:30 p.m. Eastern here in New York. Now, if you look all the way in the distance, I think this is one of the most unique apartment buildings as we approach SoHo here. Hey, photos from around New York. What's up? Photos. Did you catch any of the USA game today, man? We pulled out the big W over Iran. It was a good game, entertaining game. Hey, Daryl is here from Chicago. What's up, Daryl? Good to see you. FredX, thank you for the time check. Austin City Limits, thank you for the time check. Appreciate it. Really quick, I want to point out this shop right here. This is called Gasoline Alley Coffee. And it is one of my favorite coffee shops in the entire city. Highly, highly recommend you go here.
That's what he's trying to do, go to game.
Look at the inside, very unique. And it has a bicycle on the top here.
Yeah, OTV. OTV. Baby OTV.
So check it out. If you're ever in NoHo, SoHo area near the one and only NYU, that place is good. That place is a 10 out of 10. The place is fantastic. All right, this is the building that I'm talking about here. Look at how unique that is. And it's actually adjacent from the Adidas store. But if you guys are enjoying tonight's live stream so far, feel free to leave a like on the video and hit the subscribe button if you are new. We do these live streams about 5 days a week between New York City and Miami. Now, these are some of my favorite buildings with the fire escapes here. I think one of my goals one day in New York is to either own or rent an apartment that has like really nice fire escape out so you could hang out on a nice summer night, spring night. Fire escapes in the chat, thumbs up or thumbs down. What do you guys think? I love them. It reminds me of very classic OG New York, hanging out on the fire escapes. I love it. Fairway, what's up? Good to see you. Jay Sully, welcome. Kathy Lyons. Hey, Fabio says, hello everybody. Hey, Tom, nice to talk to you again. If you were to invest in the real market in New York City, or real estate market in New York City outside of stocks, what kind of business would you be in? Oh, if I were to open a business in New York? I don't know. It's a tough one. I really don't know, because it's becoming more increasingly difficult to start a business here, especially in New York State, right? Not to get too political on the stream, but there's a lot of barriers, a lot of high tax. But I don't know, if I had unlimited money and if it didn't matter, I don't know. I really don't know. It's a good question though. I'm just very concerned about investing a lot of money into rental real estate here in the city. Hey, Tress Boston is here, so thumbs up. Love that. So that's the famous Adidas store here. So we are crossing south of Houston as we make our push down to the financial district. Yeah, David Individual. So David, another thing is, so you're talking about manufacturing. Now, there's a very, very important leading indicator, right, that we always talk about and we look at on these live streams. So the first business day of every single month, that is when we hear from the Institute for Supply Management as they release their Purchasing Managers Index, or the PMIs. And you guys are pretty much experts on this, in how to read and interpret those PMIs. But to David's point, ever since the turn of the new year, we've been seeing PMI numbers really, really decline rather rapidly here. Now, generally speaking, a reading, look at how beautiful this is. I love all these shops here. Really unique. Now, generally speaking, if you get a reading above 50 on the PMIs, that signals expansion in the manufacturing sector in the United States. But a reading below 50 signals contraction. Now, it's not so much the number that matters. What matters is the overall trajectory of those PMIs, right? So what I suggest is building a basic Excel model, a spreadsheet, pulling the historical data from the internet with basic web scraping skills, and plotting a curve of the PMIs going back about 3 years. And you'll be able to see when the PMIs go up and down. And what you'll conclude is that when you look at the PMIs generally, you are looking at the business cycle, right? But we'll talk about that the first business day of the month, which I think is Tuesday. No, which I think is Thursday. Hey, Nelson Sanchez Campos, thank you so much for your very generous and kind $1 donation. I appreciate it very much. Thank you for your support. And I hope you have a fantastic day. Yeah, Ryan Beck. CrowdStrike, I think, is down 20% today after hours, after earnings. Now, CrowdStrike beat on both the top and the bottom line, but as we talked about at the beginning of the stream, I think the market is sending a very, very clear signal. Check out these outdoor dining structures. Aren't these unique? I think these are the best outdoor dining structures that I've seen so far. The market is sending a very clear signal that growth is still very, very out of favor. And they favor value, right? Or companies who have earnings now, and a lot of them, right? And as we talked about the Dow, if you look at the Dow, it's leading the S&P, it's leading the NASDAQ, and for good reason. Take a look at the top 10 stocks in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. FDNY Firehouse here, 2 thumbs up. And you'll notice that the vast majority of them, I think except for one, has dividend yields above 2%. I think United Health may have like a 1.7% yield. But the vast majority of them have yields over 2%. IBM has a dividend yield of what? 4.5. Caterpillar 2.25. So growth is definitely out of favor for sure. Hey, touring different places is here. Says just joining in. Welcome. Good to see you. Hey, I see Michelle. Says hello. Good to see you, Michelle. Thank you for joining as well. David Individual says, Tom, expect layoffs in the manufacturing sector mid next year. Most nations are affected. China gets hit very, very hard. We'll definitely watch that. We'll keep an eye out. Mary Lamb says, did the eateries pay for using the street space? I don't think so. I think it was an accommodation because of the pandemic, right? The city didn't want people eating inside, so they allowed people to build these impromptu outdoor dining structures. Although a lot of them are coming down, though, isn't it? Maybe photos from around New York could provide some clarity on that. Aren't a lot of these structures coming down? Now, this is a great skateboarding spot, by the way, but I want to show you guys the Christmas trees here. And then we're going to talk about an interesting subject here. Hey, TC, thank you so much, man, for your $10 donation. I appreciate it. It says, too bad Governor Kickback Kathy and Mayor Biden of Brooklyn Adams are the rat king and queens in New York. I appreciate your donation and your support for the channel. I just try to keep the political commentary just to a little bit of a minimum, but I do appreciate the support and I understand your frustration with that. And thank you again for the generous donation. I appreciate it very much. Here's some more beautiful buildings here with the scaffolding. As we have some skaters here, but you're gonna see the Christmas tree setups here. Billy, you know what? I actually forgot. So Billy says last night on the stream, there was some talk of Salesforce reporting today. They report tomorrow. I was getting my dates mixed up. I mixed and matched CrowdStrike with Salesforce. So Salesforce will be up on the earnings block tomorrow. But CrowdStrike reported today. Forward guidance wasn't good. Stock getting hammered after hours. Stock getting reamed. But that's all right, because the United States men's national team got the job done. And that's all that matters, right? Team USA is moving on. We beat Iran, banging in some goals. Somebody says, what do the trees go for? That's a good question. If I had to guess, something like this is probably what, a 14 to 15 foot tree, maybe $300. Am I shooting too high on that? Thoughts in the chat on that prediction. Was that an egregious estimate, or was that correct? Because in full transparency, I just said a random number. But now that I'm thinking about it, that actually probably sounds fair, right? Maybe $300 for a tree that size, especially in New York. I wouldn't doubt it. You know, I'm glad we came this way. I have a quick recommendation for any of our viewers that enjoy Egyptian food. So if you look across the street, this is a restaurant called Zuba. And I've been here many times, and it is very, very good Egyptian food for those of you who enjoy that. Or maybe you've never tried it before. And if not, I would definitely try this place. It's fantastic. Really, really good. And I also like a lot of the artwork and all the colors inside. I'll try to give you guys a peek, just so you know what I'm talking about. It's not bad prices too. Look at this. Everything's like $10, $13. It's not bad. I mean, if you go out to eat in New York, you're willing to spend $30+. Everything on the menu is like $10. Pretty good. Hey, Dr. Murray Hill MD says, hey Tom, $20 any tree near my house. In the Poconos. Poconos are beautiful, by the way. But yeah, $300 seems fair for a tree in the city. They were already outrageous when we used to buy them before. All this inflation, I think $300 is pretty accurate. Dr. Murray Hill, MD. Yeah, the Poconos is a beautiful, beautiful location up there in the Pocono Mountains. Yeah, I mean, and that tree was pretty big. Probably about a 17-foot tree. Especially in the city, and then you got to take into consideration you're probably going to take a cab to get it back to your house, right? That's another what, $25, $30. All right, let's make a quick pit stop through Little Italy, and then I want to talk about, I want to piggyback on something we were talking about yesterday, and I want to preface that with a quick statement. But first, I want to quickly show you guys the scaffolding here. I told you guys we would be making multiple pit stops because I just want to show you the contrast between the architecture that we see in Midtown all the time and the architecture down here. I would say this is more timeless. So on the stream over the past, I would say 3 to 4 months, we've been really, really getting a good grasp of how we can use the bond market as a leading indicator for GDP growth, to predict corporate earnings, and hopefully to forecast S&P 500 movement. Thank you so much, Edward O, for the $1 donation. I appreciate that. But we have been talking about the bond market from the point of the US Treasury market. So in general terms, as a quick review, the United States Treasury issues bonds to raise money to finance government spending, right? So the Treasury will issue bonds, and they will use those proceeds to finance government spending. Now, I think part two, right, because we've been talking about yield curve analysis. We've been doing some yield curve analysis to forecast business cycles, to forecast corporate earnings. I think as we move into the next couple months here on the stream, I want to sort of talk about and introduce, and many of you already know this, but talk about the corporate bond market, because just as governments issue bonds to raise money to finance government spending, corporations will do the same, but to finance their operations. This is Tony Soprano here, as well as Old Blue Eyes. So one of the things that the reason why we could use the corporate bond market as a leading indicator, or a potential leading indicator, is because we can look at changes in pricing of corporate debt. And that will give us a really good indication as to, do investors see risk coming down the pike for corporations? And generally speaking, corporate debt is priced via a spread above the benchmark. And the benchmark here in the US is that 10-year US Treasury yield. That's why you'll notice all the time when we start these live streams, we will first review where's the 10-year US Treasury yield at, right? So we always look to the 10-year US Treasury yield because that is the benchmark for which pretty much all other debt is priced, specifically in the corporate bond market. So we will get into some analysis between AAA rated debt all the way down to the CCC, which is the junkiest of the junk, the dog, you know what, and how we could look at these bond indices or these benchmarks to forecast either corporate earnings growth, corporate recession, or earnings recession, and then we'll sort of tie it all together with additional leading indicators. And then hopefully as we progress down the line years later, right, or maybe in about a year from now, we will start to do something interesting and maybe try to generate live trade ideas based off of these leading economic indicators. Oh, I missed the, I want to show you guys this, hold on. This is by far, in my opinion, one of the greatest Italian bakeries in New York City. This is called Ferrara Bakery. It is right here in the heart of Little Italy. It was established in 1892. It's fantastic. Please check it out right here, Ferrara Bakery. Hey, Outer Haven is here. Welcome. Good to see you. Dusty Cole says, I'd love to hear Tom cuss. I think I actually may have let a few swear words loose on accident when we saw that huge Thanksgiving debacle. Hey, Palmetti's, good to see you. This place is also good too, the Canola King. All right, JM, I love you, my friend, but we cannot have any of that in the chat. Nothing about mugging or stabbing, or I just don't want that. It's a bad omen. I'm doing these things live. Let's just enjoy it and not talk about muggings and stabbings and me getting killed, please. Hey, Wendy England, good to see you. Miguel, welcome. So here's what I wanted to quickly bring up. Yesterday on the stream, we talked about a potential contrarian, or being a potential contrarian as it relates to the Chinese equity market, right? Specifically the Hang Seng Index. Oh, this building is really lit up all nice here. Now, I think China just opened maybe about an hour ago. Does anybody know where the HSI is trading out right now? Are we down on the day? Are we positive, negative? Are we green or in the red? Anyway, we're starting to see a similar thing here, or I'm noticing a similar thing, potentially as a contrarian indicator as it relates to the cryptocurrency markets. Now, when I talk about the cryptocurrency markets. I am not talking about the alternative altcoins and things like that. I think you all know my takes on them. When I really talk about that on the stream, when I say crypto, I really mean Bitcoin and then Ethereum. I think a lot of the other stuff is nonsense. But notice the price action there. Notice the price action today, or I would say the divergence between Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then the broader stock market. And the reason why I bring it up is because we were talking about that quote that bull markets tend to start on extreme pessimism. They mature on, I forget the exact quote. I always mess it up, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And then bull markets end in euphoria. So when nobody wants to buy, when everybody says things like China is uninvestable, or what we have going on in the markets right now with the FTX debacle, I think it's pretty obvious that we could be getting close to a bottom here. Now, I'm not calling a bottom, but I think it's important and appropriate that we really, really stay keyed in to those key markets, because as we talk about pain trades, I think the pain trade may be to the upside here. All right, I think we'll have just enough time, everybody, to do a quick lap around Chinatown, and then we got to book it for Wall Street. So. Brendan O'Brien says, hey Tom, problem is you can't legally own any Chinese equities under Chinese law. Just claim on future profits kept offshore. Yeah, so that is why like a lot of the Chinese stocks, they'll trade as ADRs, so they're considered American depository receipts. Right, so if you punch in like ticker symbol BABA for Alibaba or JD for JD, to Brendan's point, ooh, there's another rat. That's the 5th one of the night. What are we at on a rat count tonight? 5? To his point, you're not technically buying a share in the company. You're buying shares in a holding company, I think based in the Cayman Islands, or maybe the Bahamas, that then in turn hold the underlying shares. It was a big rat. Hey, Nelson Sanchez Campos, appreciate you, my friend. But if you guys kind of enjoy the topics we talk about, and you want to continue that conversation, if you scan the QR code on your screen and punch in your email, you'll be signed up to receive our free investing newsletter where we talk about the US equity market, emerging markets, fixed income and the like. And we are going to start on a regular schedule very, very soon with sending these newsletters out, so you do not want to miss them. They're completely free, and they include a lot of what we talk about on the streams, like the government bond market, the corporate bond market, how we can use leading indicators to hopefully predict GDP growth, and then to forecast corporate earnings or a corporate earnings recession, and then take a directional bet on either individual indices or individual stock names. So now we are in Chinatown. The one thing I love about Chinatown is all these paper lanterns here. Really, really beautiful. Yeah, somebody says, do the rats pay taxes too? I wish. I think that would solve all of our deficit problems if they did. Rats are definitely freeloaders. Now, the thing about Chinatown is it always looks completely dead right around after 9 o'clock. A lot of the businesses, restaurants tend to close a little bit early. As you noticed, these may look like abandoned buildings, but during the day, this is a very, very busy place. I would like to note, this actually isn't the biggest Chinatown in New York. The biggest Chinatown, New York is actually, let's just cross the street here. It's actually in Flushing, Queens. Main Street. You can take the 7 train all the way to the end of the line, and you will get off at Flushing Main Street, the largest Chinatown. And I think my favorite Chinatown too. A lot of really, really good spots there. Hello Mate 2008 says, can a regular person, retail investor buy corporate bonds, junk bonds, and some structured credit products? Usually not. There are some indices and ETFs that track like a basket of corporate bonds by rating, right? So your AAA would be the premium companies, all the way down to the CCC, which is the junkiest of the junk. But to your point, there's 2 categories of corporate debt. There's investment grade and then non-investment grade, right? And one of the things you'll notice as we sort of go through this, and I'm going to be writing about it a lot in the newsletter because I think it's important to see visuals. What you'll notice as we revert back to how corporate debt trades and how it is priced via a spread over the benchmark. And the benchmark is the 10-year US Treasury yield. Hold that thought. This is my favorite place in Chinatown. Well, my second favorite place. It's called Great New York Noodle Town. They actually just reopened it, which is really great. So please check this out. But one of the things you'll notice is that AAA rated bonds, or the higher the credit worthiness of the business or the corporation, the smaller the spread will be over the benchmark. And as you get into the high yield, like the BB down to the CCC, the junk or the dog, that tends to trade with a huge spread over the 10-year. So a lot of people that maybe don't pay attention will sometimes buy companies and say, oh, this is a great stock. But they make the mistake of not also analyzing the debt. There's a lot you can learn from a company by looking where its debt is trading. And there's a lot of times that people will be buying common stock in companies, and people are, sending me emails, they're hammering me about, look at this ticker symbol, look at this ticker symbol. And I look at where the debt is trading, and I'm like, this thing is going to go out of business. So that's why it's very important first to, number one, build your macroeconomic framework, but understand first how money is priced in the bond market. And you could learn a lot from the ratings of this corporate debt specifically, because ratings agencies, right, the way you get these scores, check out the beautiful artwork all over the walls here. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, how do you get a rating on your bond? Well, there's actually ratings agencies that their sole job and their sole purpose is to provide these ratings on these bonds, right? Now, I think there's really only 3 that you need to familiarize yourself with and pay attention to, and that would be Moody's, then Fitch Ratings, and then lastly, I would say S&P. But there's also many other ratings agencies, but their job is to put a grade based upon the credit worthiness of the business on this debt. And to your point, there's very, very few and far between circumstances where the average retail investor could speculate on this, but there are some ETFs that do track it. I know, Bree Graham says, looks like you're walking around a postcard. It's beautiful down here. I'll give you guys one more shot of all the paper lanterns here. Really, really nice down in Chinatown. Don Miller, good to see you, Don. Hey, Laytha, good to see you. Laytha, have you had, did you get a chance today to watch the USA game? Yeah, Michael's like, the letter grades, just like the letter grades on the New York City restaurants. Now, if we think back to 2008, I don't really want to go down a huge rabbit hole about the ratings agencies, but there was some nefarious activity going on with, and I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say it. I think maybe sometimes it goes on now too, but with some less frequency. It's sort of like one hand washes the other. Because in 2008, these rating agencies were stamping high scores on really, really subprime debt. Wow, look at this. This is an amazing view of the One World Trade Center from Mott Street. What do you guys think? Out of 10. I'm going to give this shot here. I'm going to give it a 9.3. I think it's a solid score. I think that's fair and balanced. Yeah, Dan, I do. So Dan Zhang says, Tom, don't you think Chinatown closes down a little bit too early? I do. I think it does close down too early. Could you imagine if Chinatown had the hours of Koreatown? Could you imagine how packed it would be? You know what? That's a good thought. If Chinatown had the hours of Koreatown, I think this place would be rocking every night. Once again, really cool graffiti on the storefronts. Hey, Young Nation 92, good to see you. OI is here. Welcome, OI. Giovanni is here. Welcome. Says, yeah, that still goes on these days, unfortunately. Steph UH says, why do Koreans stay out later in Koreatown? Well, I think it has to come down to culture. And Koreans, or Korea, is very, very westernized. And they have a very strong influence on Western culture. Now, I have a lot of Korean friends. And Seoul specifically. Now, one of my close friends works for a pretty big company. Big Korean company in Seoul, and sometimes after work they go out to karaoke. They do karaoke a lot, to sometimes 2 o'clock in the morning on a work night. It's really, really crazy. It's a very, very fun culture. It's sort of the way I can describe it based upon my Korean friends, is a very, very work hard, play hard culture. Very, very work hard, play hard, and it's very fun. Yeah, Giovanni says K-Town is always crowded too at night. It is. It's really fun there. A lot of cool places. So Young Nation says now San Francisco's Chinatown has overtaken New York's. I heard about that. I would like to visit. Yeah, Jeff 277. That was one of the topics we were talking about today. And it's interesting because we talked about that yesterday, right? Now, we've been hearing so much negative sentiment out of China for a lot of good reasons, right? The protests, the riots, and the Hang Seng Index yesterday was up 5%. And I think we're trading in the green today too. Dan Zhang says, hey Tom, karaoke is one of the main activities that most of the Asian high school students do when they were hanging out. It's very, very popular. Very, very popular, karaoke. Pup says, Tom, would you like to do some karaoke for us? I'm going to spare you guys that. I think you would. I think you wouldn't be too happy with me if I did that. Wow, check this out. This is another great shot of the One World Trade Center. You know, speaking of Korea, I may be in Korea in February, and I'm looking forward to that. We'll see. We'll see. So obviously, everybody, we did talk about the S&P Case-Shiller National Home Price Index that came out today. We do know that prices on a year-over-year basis increased 10.6%, but we are seeing deceleration. But I think it would be cool to look at the individual markets that had the largest year-over-year price appreciation. So does anybody want to take a guess what the three major markets were that performed the best as it relates to price appreciation? The top three cities. Does anybody want to take a guess? Donald says live walk-ins in Korea. I don't think I would do that, honestly. Wow, MSK says, oh, Tom, you have to check out COEX Mall in Seoul. That neighborhood is my hometown, and it's a very fun area. Wow. So these are cities, I should clarify, these are cities in the United States, right? So the major cities in the United States that had the highest amount of home price appreciation. Yeah, Sparks Carnival. I think Sparks Carnival got 2 out of 3. So the number one city that saw the most rapid price appreciation in the price of homes was number 1, Miami, Florida. Number 2 was Tampa, Florida. And number 3 was Charlotte, North Carolina. All posting their highest record-breaking year-over-year gains. So check this out. Miami, Florida had a price appreciation of 24.6% year over year. Crazy. Tampa, Florida, 23.8%. Charlotte, 17.8%. That's significant. And to be fair, do you notice something in common about those 3 cities specifically? Those 3 cities, I believe, benefited the most from, I would say, COVID migration, right? You saw a lot of people migrating to major cities in Florida, also in the Carolinas. So obviously, supply and demand, the more people that move there, higher the prices. But if you look on a month-over-month basis, they actually had the highest month-over-month declines of about 1%. Hey, Deborah S., good to see you. Welcome, Deborah. Yeah, Michael Joseph's Brooklyn Bridge coming up on the left. Love this building. Look at the design, the architecture, fantastic. Hey, Wendy England says, seriously, Tom, if you came to Vancouver, you would fall in love with the city. I think I probably would. I would love to go to Canada. Hey, Edward O says, I'm going to check out Going to Sleep. Have a good night. Thank you, Edward. I appreciate you joining us tonight on the stream. Fairway says, Tom, you could do live stream from a karaoke bar in Korea. Hey Jeff, this is Tom. I purchased the unit I live in 2012 for $48,000. 14 months later, an identical unit in the same building sold for $130K. Wow. Yeah, talk about a big price bump there. But look, again, I think what's more important, right? These headline numbers, year-over-year numbers, even though they look scary, right? Which they do. This is the on-ramp to the Brooklyn Bridge. It's important to keep things into context based upon the current economic environment that we're in and on a month-over-month basis. So on a month-over-month rate of change, prices are actually coming down. And I don't think that's surprising anybody, because one of the main reasons why, or I would say one of the main catalysts for real estate price appreciation or price declines is, you guessed it, the price of money. And the 30-year fixed rate mortgage, the yield has gone up over 100% year over year. I think the averaged 30-year fixed rate mortgage is going for just under 7%, right? So all of the people who are buying homes for $450,000 to $500,000, assuming a 3% fixed rate on a 30-year, well, people that are trying to buy same homes right now that are relatively valued similarly to that, 450 to 500, well, their payments are going to be 100% higher. So another leading indicator we look at is the National Association of Realtors, as they release their existing home sales. And what is one thing we've been noticing about that, as we've been covering that on the live stream? Sales deceleration, very, very rapid declines there. All right, team, this is Pace University, very, very famous school here. Pace is a very, very good school, but it is also very expensive, Pace University. But I think they remodeled almost the entire thing. Looks pretty good in there. Melissa 2087 says, I applied there. Did you get in? Or did you get denied? I only got accepted to one college, only one. Which just so happened to be the one that I went to. Hey, Dante. K-Man says, I was there 30 days ago. How'd you like it? How'd you like Park Row, Spruce Street area? Love the dog. Melissa 2087 says, I got denied. That's all right. You know, right where this is Chop House, I've seen this place change into like 4 different restaurants. It used to be a Denny's at one point when I was working down here on Wall Street. For a tech company, by the way. It just so happened our office was located on Wall Street. We'll probably pass it tonight. But I used to come over here. It used to be a Denny's. Now, here's another interesting thing we're going to see, and I'm actually excited about it, because as we've reviewed, and sort of, if we think back to our live streams on quantitative trading and algorithmic trading, one of the things we'll notice that as algorithmic trading and computers really came to the forefront, there's really was no need for major broker dealers and investment banks to be physically on Wall Street anymore, right? Because if we think about how traditionally, back in the day, stocks were traded, look at how unique this building is here on Spruce Street. It was traded with physical pieces of paper. if you could believe that. But now, with computerized trading and algorithms, a lot of the major investment banks, broker dealers, hedge funds have migrated to Midtown Manhattan. Holy crap, look at all this garbage. And actually, I really consider Wall Street to be Park Avenue. Park Avenue has the lion's share of investment banks, private equity, family offices, hedge funds, and also in and around Times Square in Midtown, right? Morgan Stanley, if we think about Lehman Brothers' old office, is right there just north of Times Square, which is now Barclays Investment Bank, by the way. I think this is one of the dormitories at Pace. So the reason why I'm excited to go down to Wall Street is because the last standing, or one of the last standing major investment banks was a German investment bank by the name of Deutsche Bank that has now shuttered their doors downtown on Wall Street and has moved up and taken the place of Time Warner Center right at Columbus Circle, 59th Street, now called the Deutsche Bank Towers. So we'll see if there's anything moving in there. Paul Meddy's dorm life priceless. How many of you went to college and stayed in a dorm? I didn't. I commuted from home. I always wondered what it was like to actually live on the campus. All right, one of the best views that you're going to see is right here on Fulton Street. As we turn the corner here, this is what I like to call a rip your face off view. So you got to hold on to your face. Check this out. Very, very iconic. I'm sure you've seen multiple photos of this shot right here, but this is directly down Fulton Street, and you can see the One World Trade Center right here. Oh, Mike C says you commuted from home as well. Yeah, it's more affordable like that, right? Hey, MD says, Tom, what camera are you using? We use an iPhone 13 mini to do the live streams. All right, but we must push onward because I got to keep tabs on the time here. You know what? I was going to show you guys around this way and go down, but we got to do it. We have to do it. We just have to. We are about to slam right in to the diabolical Federal Reserve right at the end of the block. And I think it's appropriate to walk past the Fed. Ooh, look at this. This is new. Oh my gosh, guys. You know what? This is 130 William Street. This is my favorite building by far in the city, as opposed to an apartment building. I never knew actually where it was physically until now. This building is insane. So if you want to see what I'm talking about, I would just Google it or punch it in on YouTube, 130 William. The building is unreal. I never knew it was right here. Wow. There's too many lights up, so it blocks the view. So I think I'm gonna try to get you guys around the backside, but you gotta check out that building. That building is so crazy. 130 William Street. It has some amazing views of all of the bridges. So you could think about Manhattan Bridge, Brooklyn Bridge. And check out the swimming pool in that building too. You guys can be very impressed. I think it's a saltwater swimming pool too. But anyway, so December 13th through the 14th, we are going to be hearing from the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell. And if you look straight down the block here, you could actually see it. This is the Federal Reserve. But if you guys have been enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and hit the subscribe button if you are new. We do these live streams about 5 days a week between New York City and Miami, and we'd love to have you along for the ride. Oh, I do have to check my battery. I think I'm on 10%. Good catch. I know. Yeah, Ryan's like, if you look closely, you could see Jay Powell at the window here. So this is it. This is the Federal Reserve. Now, I think in this building, about 10 stories below, in the doldrums of New York, is the world's largest deposits of physical gold. Right here. Very heavily guarded place. Now, speaking of the New York Fed, we heard from Fed President John Williams. And many people said it came off as dovish. I actually had the opposite impression. Maybe we were listening to a different interview or a different speech. He was speaking at the Economic Club of New York. And I think his speech was actually very hawkish in nature. All right, here's a better shot of it. You can see all of the, sort of like the, what would you call that? Like iron rebar? The barriers on the building. Vladimir says, Tom, what is your opinion on gold in an inflationary environment? Price fell since 2020. Is it because of the sentiment of the Fed? Well, so what is gold trading at right now? I think we're over 1,700, right? Could we get a quick Google search on that? I'm actually kind of curious. I think we busted back over 1,700 for the first time in a while. Now, you know, let me put the battery in before I forget, because last night we went out. Hold that thought for 2 seconds. 1750. All right, so here's what I want everybody to do. So this is what I was looking at, right, as it relates to gold. I think like 30 bucks.
30 bucks?
Yeah, I think like 30 bucks.
Is it on Amazon?
Yeah, it's called a gimbal.
Gimbal?
Yeah, if you type it in on Amazon, just get the cheapest one. It's like 30 bucks.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm a content creator. So.
Oh yeah? Yeah, get it. It's cool. It's good.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Does it up, down, is it two? Up, down?
Yeah, it's just you use this button. It can go like that.
That is badass. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sold.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Happy holidays.
Oh, you too, man.
Gimbal?
Yes. Yeah. All right, I gotta find my battery. All right, we're good. We're locked and loaded, ready to go. I forgot what we were talking about, but I'm sure it was something exciting. Anyway, let's head down to Wall Street. I think we may see the Christmas tree all lit up. Oops, sorry. Ah, gold. Yes, you're right. Hey, Julia M says, hey, Tom, late to the party. Julia, you were right on time. Thank you for being here. Julia, really quick, I'll give you a rundown of what we've been talking about. Number one, we were briefly talking about the S&P Case-Shiller National Home Price Index that was released today. Year over year, we did increase, but month over month, we're seeing declines. We were talking about the corporate bond market and how we may be able to use yields of junk bonds and investment grade bonds to predict GDP. But I think that topic's going to need a lot of visuals, so I'm going to be writing about it in the newsletter. Talked about CrowdStrike getting clocked after hours. Now we're talking about gold. So the interesting thing, gold, I don't have any exposure to gold, but if you remember correctly, this is one of my favorite sort of spaces in the city, by the way. If we remember correctly, during the pandemic, and if you go to tradingview.com or however you chart, that's my favorite charting software, it's free. Pull up a monthly chart of gold and look at just the massive, well, it appeared to be a massive cup and handle, like a decade-long, 12-year-long cup and handle. And I said, look, if we break out and bust into all-time record highs, I'd probably buy some gold. But we actually broke down and we're sort of chopping around the 1700 level. So I really don't have any exposure to precious metals. The only exposure I have is I have a very, very teeny bit of physical silver, but it's not even anything to move the equity needle. It's pretty much for fun. Now, this is Deutsche Bank, or what was Deutsche Bank. Now it is Vacant. So let us head towards Deutsche Bank. And they've moved to Columbus Circle, 59th Street. I don't know, any opinions on gold in the chat? Now, historically, gold tends to be a good store of value, right? Now, I think gold is good to have in a very diversified portfolio if you're rich, right? But I think if you're still young, right, and this isn't advice, this is just, we're just talking amongst the chat here. I think if you're young in your 20s, I don't know, I think you should still have all of your exposure towards equities, right? Because over the long period, and I'm talking about like in a retirement account, right? You're not actively trading the market. Maybe you're just indexing and you own an index fund that tracks the S&P. If you're 20 years old, yeah, just go to work and, dollar cost average into the S&P 500, because yes, are we going to experience earnings recessions? Yes. Is the stock market, ooh, this is a cool shot. Is the stock market going to go down at times? Of course. But over long periods of time, what history has shown is that, generally speaking, corporate earnings in America tend to be on an upward trajectory over time. And if you want to read a really good book about this, about just a general trajectory of corporate earnings, I would read Peter Lynch's One Up on Wall Street. But if you're 20 years old, you have time, right? I don't know if I'd want to be buying gold. I would want to get exposure to companies, America's greatest companies that pay dividends, right? All right, we are here on Broad Street. This is another pretty good shot. If you look all the way down the street, you're going to see the amazing Trinity Church, very, very famous church here. Julia M's problem with gold is you can't eat it or use it. It can only sell. That's a good point. Julia, did you see the very famous Warren Buffett's take on gold? And I think he was asked this at the Berkshire Hathaway meeting, or the annual shareholders meeting one year. And I won't spoil it for everybody. I'll see if you guys could find it, but I would highly recommend watching that, because he makes a good point, right? And this is all about, I guess Warren Buffett is a big believer in owning assets that are income producing, right? And good quality American companies tend to produce cash flows and earnings. and we can be a part of that. Gold, you know, if you took all the gold in the world, I think it would fit into a little cube or a big cube that you could probably fit right here. Wow, look at the New York Stock Exchange tonight. This is a 10 out of 10. I think they're getting ready for the tree lighting. Too bad they have all this scaffolding here. All right, what do you guys think of the New York Stock Exchange? I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10 tonight. Okay, maybe a 9.9 because there's so much scaffolding around, but they did the best they could with what they had. And there is the tree right outside the NYSE. And I've said this before, but I think this is a better tree than the one at Rockefeller Center, in my opinion. Michael Joseph says no more American flag hanging. They should bring it back. Well, they change it every time a new company IPOs on the NYSE. They put the company's ticker symbol here, but I think they're getting ready for the Christmas stuff. So, Dan Zhang says, Tom, have you ever been inside the NYSE? I haven't. It's my dream. I always said I wish I was born like 50 years ago, because I would have loved to be a floor trader on the New York Stock Exchange. But now the New York Stock Exchange is pretty much just like a tourist attraction and a TV studio. There's really nothing that goes on there. I shouldn't say nothing goes on there, but it doesn't play as big of a role as it once did. It's pretty much just like a TV studio. But you want to see a big travesty? So if you look all the way across, adjacent from the New York Stock Exchange, you will see Federal Hall. Now, Federal Hall is beautiful. You have the massive George Washington statue there, but you'll notice all the scaffolding here. This is going to be up for 10 years. So I actually used to eat lunch right here on the stairs. You can't see it because of the scaffolding. But every day when I worked down here, I used to eat lunch right on the stairs, right next to my pal George, and I would look at the New York Stock Exchange. But unfortunately, there's so much structural damage, allegedly, to the building that it is going to be under extreme renovation for, I believe, 10 years. Hey, NMB 045 says, I walked the entire length of Wall Street and I didn't get the kind of vibe like you would 50 years ago. Oh, of course, yeah. There's not much, you know, and this is called the financial district, right? But it's really, there's not a lot of, I shouldn't say not a lot, but a lot less financial activity going on here. Again, as we talked about, if you really want to visit the true Wall Street in New York, I would go to Park Avenue, walk up and down there. That is where a lot of the investment bankers, the traders, hedge fund managers, a lot of private equity firms, they are all uptown. You know, we'll continue to walk down Broad Street and we'll see it from the different angle. Hey, Destructionist is here. Good to see you. Jeff, you're correct. NASDAQ is there. This is the Fearless Girl, by the way. Very famous attraction. Now, the Fearless Girl actually used to be on Broadway, but they moved her here because she was drawing such a crowd that it was backing up the entire Broadway. So they had to move it here, just so it wouldn't back up traffic. Oh, look at the Christmas ordinance here. You can see it. It says NYSE. That's the coolest thing ever, man. If the New York Stock Exchange wants to give me one of these Christmas decorations, I would gladly appreciate it. Wow, they look amazing. It's so cool that they say NYSE. I would totally hang that up in my house. What do you guys think of the Christmas bulbs here with NYSE on it? That's fantastic. Yeah, Dan saying, I wish. This is a cool shot. Oh, it'll say when it is. Wow, the 99th annual tree lighting is Wednesday, November 30th, 2 to 6. Oh, so that's tomorrow. I didn't know that. Looks good. Yeah, Ken's like, how high can you jump? I wouldn't say I could jump extremely high, but I think people would be surprised. All right, here's a shot from this angle. You know, I think it may look better from this angle. What do you guys think? You think the tree outside of the New York Stock Exchange looks better from the other angle or this one? I think it looks better from here. I actually want to take a screenshot of that. Maybe someone could take a screenshot of this frame right here. Let me try to center it. Looks good. 10 out of 10. It's going to look even better. We got to come down here. That means we're probably going to have to do the stream tomorrow from Lower Manhattan. I mean, we can't not see the tree all lit up, right? All right, we're going to head straight down here. I'm going to take you guys to Deutsche Bank, and that should take us to the top of the 2 hours. It's going to look awesome lit up, I'm telling you guys. And we'll do a comparison, all right? We'll take a walk around Rockefeller Center, and then you guys could see for yourselves every year they do it better down here. Maybe a hot take. The tree looks better here. I don't know why. And it's not even as big. You'll notice all these barricades here. These went up after September 11th because obviously the New York Stock Exchange is a major terror target, unfortunately. So there's really no cars down here unless you work or you have clearance or you live in and around the exchange. Okay, William Street. We are about to head into Deutsche Bank as we pass 21 Exchange. Well, look, I think we covered a lot. I think we got a lot done today. Let's watch these contrarian, I would say, events as they potentially play out. Let's keep an eye on the Chinese market. Let's keep an eye on a potential big move here in Bitcoin and Ethereum. We'll see. Ooh, look at this. Big spill. Ooh, it smells terrible. Oh. Okay, here we are at the front of Deutsche Bank, but now not Deutsche Bank. It's all boarded up, it's still boarded up. Looks like there's no tenant. Now this would be a perfect building to convert into residential apartments. Now we've been talking about the housing crisis in America, and I think this is one solution. Take commercial real estate and reappropriate it to individual housing. Look at how massive this building is, and the entire thing is vacant. This place used to be so busy. I used to walk past here every day. So the Deutsche Bank is now at the Columbus Circle, formerly known as Time Warner Center. So 60 Wall Street is vacant. I'll try to give you guys a peek. It looks like they may be doing something. Maybe they are converting it into residential housing, hopefully. Shannon Hall says, everybody says real estate is the cash cow of investments. What are your thoughts? I don't know if I can answer that. It's very broad. I don't know. Not sure if that really makes sense. It's a very broad question. Now, there's a lot of different things that go into a real estate investment, right? And depending on tons of factors, if the property is going to cash flow or not, there's a lot of different mechanics in that. You could lose a lot of money in real estate. You can make a lot of money in it. But there's so many different things at play, which we could maybe talk about on a different stream, because we're coming up right to the 2-hour mark. But, you know, are your tenants, the rent you collect, is that going to cover the mortgage? Are you going to cash flow? Are you going to be cash flow negative? Especially in the multifamily space, where, you know, if you're buying 300 units, a lot of the times that is not fixed rate debt, that is floating rate, and that could be a problem. So it's very dynamic. I don't think you can't really say, oh, real estate is the best investment. There's a lot of real estate you could buy that's not worth anything, right? It's all about location. It's all about the, you know, what you buy. MA Freedom First, do you know how long ago that bank closed? I'm trying to think. Maybe, I don't know, it didn't close, it just moved. Maybe within the year, I'd say within the year. Hey, Teresa Diaz, thank you so much for your $2 donation. Says, thank you, new subscribers, 25,300 people. Wow, that's insane. Well, thank you all for joining and subscribing to the channel, watching every night. It's been a blast. It's been really, really fun. Fun fact, our office building used to be in here, and now it is a really, really nice hotel and restaurant. But this used to be my office, which is now what appears to be a really, really nice hotel. Hey, Captain Charisma says, newly subscribed. I appreciate it. Thank you for being here, and hopefully you're enjoying the content so far. All right, Water Street. Now, speaking about reappropriating office space into residential housing, if you look on the corner here, 95 Wall Street, this used to be, I think, an office space for a bank, but now it is all apartments. Now, it is luxury apartments, but it's apartments nonetheless. 95 Wall Street is a very, very nice building. Grand Street says Paramount Group redoing the 60 Wall Street building. Now 110 Wall Street is actually a WeWork office. All right, let's turn to the South Street Seaport. Julia says you worked at 110 Wall Street. Wow. I work in here often sometimes too. Not as much as I used to, but the WeWork, you could see it right here, all on the second floor, third floor, and fourth floor. Fabio says, is that New Jersey in the background? It is not. That's actually Brooklyn, New York. So as we turn here, you're actually going to have a really nice view of Brooklyn. This is on Pine Street. Maiden Lane 180. Now, Maiden Lane there used to be a major office for the DOI, the Department of Investigations. I think they've since moved. We got the atrium in here. Ooh, Austin City Limits says, do you have a train to catch? I do have a train to catch. I think I'll cut you guys loose right at the view of the Brooklyn Bridge here. But if you guys enjoyed the live stream tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video. Hit the subscribe button if you're new. We go live at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, where we talk the financial markets while walking around the city. If you want to sign up for our free financial newsletter, please scan the QR code on your screen and punch in your email. If you like a lot of the topics that we talk about on the stream, we also write a consolidated newsletter where you could stay up to date. This is Industry Kitchen overlooking the Brooklyn Bridge here. It looks like they made a Christmas tree out of the sails here on the boats. But that is all the time we have for tonight, my friends. But the good news is we will be back here together again tomorrow, 8:30. So wipe the tears from under your eyes, put a smile on that face, because the USA are advancing to the next round of the World Cup. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. So Richard, thank you so much. Millie Vanilli, FredX, appreciate it. Michael Joseph, the LT Prod, Vivian, thank you so much. Line Sync, Abdullah, Pup, Austin City Limits, Joan K, Karan, Patrick, New York, and to the Mighty Bull, have a good night wherever you are, because there's always a bull market somewhere, and you just need to know where to look. I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye for now.